Welcome to day one of Tame the Beast. And I'm really excited. I've kind of revamped this event. I really love these events, but I needed to get more action in there. So I'm really excited. And you guys get the first time run through of this new style I'm doing, which I am super, super excited about. So, first and foremost, I want to get everyone in that headspace of there is no fixing. It's all about readjusting. Like, none of us are broken. There's nothing wrong with us. We just have to do these little perspective shifts, these minor little adjustments to really get those big shifts down the road. It's like that butterfly effect, right? Like the small moves can make the big results. So that's what we're doing here today. We're really going to open up our awareness. We can't fix what we don't know we're doing. And again, I use that word fix. We can't change, we can't make the shifts if we don't know there's anything there to shift, right? So this event does deal a lot with awareness, but it's a lot of those ahas. We do a lot of work. That's what I changed. I brought in a lot of work. So, all right, we will get right down to business. Let me share my screen here. Okay, so in Tame the Beast, let me go back here. There we go. Tame the Beast. We're going from that reactive, that emotions in control, emotions driving the car, however you want to think about it, and allowing these toddler like explosions and tantrums and dramatics to being really regulated. And what's regulated? Well, that's just being in control of our emotions and really having like a set nervous system. Just touching on it briefly, I don't want to go into it too much, but our nervous system, think of it like a buildup. Kind of like you get that gunk on your shower head, if you've got hard water, the calcium buildup. Over time, you don't really notice it's happening. It's under the surface. It is building up and taking a toll every time, and little by little. You can also think of it like the frog in the boiling water. I'll get to that one in a minute. But those calcium deposits are building up and building up, and all of a sudden one day you turn on your shower and you're like, "Where's my water? What happened to all my flow?" And it's that in between where it's built up maybe over the course of a year, but you didn't really notice it, so we let it happen. The frog, when people use this a lot, I had never heard of it till recently, but you put the frog in the warm water and it just sits there. And then you slowly crank up the heat, and the frog will just sit in the water and actually be boiled to death and never jump out because the water got progressively warmer. It didn't notice there was danger. Whereas if the water's boiling and you try and put a frog in, it's going to jump out and be like, what the heck? No, thank you. And that's kind of what our nervous system, it's that slow boil, that slow buildup of fight or flight mode where the nerves are fraying and they're fraying and they're fraying. And also we're like this jittery mess where like loud noises scare us and this happens and what ifs and oh my God. And now we're just this anxiety ridden mess. Right. So the regulated, we're going to have a nice calm the nervous system and have a regulated nervous system that isn't firing and jumpy and all over the place. So that's where this comes in. And I love this saying, master your emotions, master your life. And we're going to get into this too. Stress and anxiety are just emotions. So at the core of that, the root, they're just emotions. So if we can learn to control our emotions, we control stress, anxiety. Like, how simple is that? I know I spent years about, stress and anxiety tools, how to deal with them, how to this, that, and the other. And then all of a sudden one day I'm like, oh my goodness, they're just emotions. And I'm like, huh, okay. And then it all clicked into place. And I'm like, well, why do we get all these emotions? Why do we feel this pressure? And that brings me into the capacity. And that's where I've shifted my focus into capacity expansion. I was sitting thinking about it one day. And if you're like me, like I've got a lot of goals. I've got dreams. There's a lot of things I want to do. A lot of, I love dogs. We moved to Mexico, and I would love to open or at least partner with dog rescues. And really, it's not, Mexico's really behind in the treatment of dogs and the rescuing of them. And even like, for example, in Canada, and I think America is exactly the same. Raw food, having your dog on raw food is very normal. Everyone understands that this is just better for them. And nobody, if we're not supposed to be on processed foods, then obviously our dogs aren't either, right? Excuse me. And we have, I mean, even Costco sells raw dog food now. Like that's how prevalent it is. But in all of Mexico, you cannot find raw dog food. There's one place, like its own little, I think it might be a butcher, a meat service that does offer raw dog food, but it would literally cost me, I think it was $3,000 a month to feed my dogs raw food because it's not a thing here. You cannot find it, right? So they're just really behind. So one of the things I really want to do is bring awareness and how dogs should be treated and really have more rescue services, whether I open one myself, provide them money, things like this. I have things I want to contribute to, and dogs are really near and dear to my heart. And then on top of that, they have like we have a big foundation here, um, Kickstart for Kids. And it's about making sure all kids everywhere have all necessary school supplies. So there's no excuse for them to not go to school. Same with they give like scholarships to them and stuff like that. And these are really things I want to contribute to. So, which all, of course, requires making lots of money, having lots of business, and doing all the things. Big goals, right? And so I don't necessarily, I was sitting thinking about this one day and I'm like, I don't necessarily want to take things off my plate because, again, getting back to that stress, what is stress? Oh, I have too much to do. Feeling overwhelmed is knowing there's not enough time to do all the things you want to do, right? And again, feeling, it's an emotion, which means it's to some degree a bit of an illusion. It's something we made up in our head. And I'm like, but I want to do all these things. I don't want to take them off my plate. So I'm like, well, I guess I'll have to grow my plate. And if you think about all the things, as we were growing up when we were teenagers, high school, it seemed like the end of the world. Something went wrong in high school, and high school was so hard, and there was so much stress, and our world is ending all the time. And then a couple years later, we're young adults, and we're like, holy crap, that was nothing. That was a piece of cake. Now we're all the bills to pay, the work, the this, the that. And you're like, oh, this is really stressful. It's a lot. And then a couple years later, you get married and have kids, and you're like, oh, that was nothing. So we're always adding anyway. And by necessity, we have learned to expand our plates. But the point of this and the work I do is to purposefully expand our plates before it's necessary and we're losing our mind and we're overwhelmed. So we don't have to constantly live in that cycle of stressed out to the point of losing our hair. I better expand my plate or I'm going to end up in the hospital, dealing with that and just rinsing and repeating and never actually being calm, happy, having that time, relaxation, freedom, etc. Right? So one of the things I say is we can have it all. We just have to expand our capacity, our plates to allow it, and then to figure out for ourselves what works for us. So, all right, let's get into it, guys. So we have the spillover audit. Now we're going to start with this right away. Like I said, awareness is key. That is step one. So you're going to take a minute and you're going to rate. Like just think of your current situation whether you think of yesterday, maybe last week, whatever it might be, like really just sit with your life in general. You could pick a specific day if it does help you, but think of your life in general. And who gets the worst version of me? When I'm irritated, what do I do? Who is affected the most by my irritation and what I do? And how long does it linger? That's a big one. That's our resilience, how quickly we bounce back. Now, I'll just say a little tidbit, like for myself, who gets the worst version of me? It's usually our family, and especially our partners or our parents, because they are the safe place. They love us the most, and therefore they give us the most grace for our bad behavior. And this is where a lot of us, high ambitious, goal, career, business women, entrepreneurs, we tend to have really rocky relationships because our partners get the worst of us. And so, just like these things, think about it. When I'm irritated, what do? Me personally, I snap. I get really short. I get silent. I get like all of these things. And where do they quite often land? My boyfriend, right? So just take a minute, write it all down. And this is no judgment. There's no right, wrong answers. How long does it linger? 4 days. Mine used to be days. Literally, I didn't talk to my boyfriend for 4 days one point. That's how bad I was. Now it's more like, if I really get pissed off, it's like 20 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, an hour, but it's quite short in comparison to the 4 days where I was at. So no judgments. We're just dealing in facts. We need to know these things and have the awareness to make the shifts. So we need to be very honest. If you're going to lie about all this, there's no point in doing the work because you're not actually going to do any work if you're not being honest. So, yeah, just take a minute and write it all down. And pen to paper is what I love, but however you want to do it, just really sit with it and ponder that for just a moment. All right. So coming back here now, how proud are you of how you show up under pressure? So you think of all these things, all these reactions, and when you feel the pressure, because that's when we get all snappy and irritable, we become the worst versions of ourselves. How proud of you when you're that are you of when you're that person, right? And again, this is not to make you feel bad. It's not to invoke judgment or shame or any of that. This is bringing to light, like, this was a big, big aha for me, was the fact that um, I hated how I treated my boyfriend. And I need to really come to terms with that and own that. Sorry. There we go. And that understanding how deeply I did not like the version of me I was giving him really pushed me to make these shifts and these changes. So that's why we really want to bring this awareness about, right? It's really a catalyst for us. It really drives us to make the shifts. So okay. Now, capacity, the amount of life we can handle without losing emotional control. How big is our plate? How much stuff can we put on it? And it's just, we just had Easter. So I know I always do turkey for Easter. And if you think of those turkey dinners, like they are piled full and you're trying not to spill. And well, that might not be you, but I used to do that a lot. And so it's all about like, how big is the plate? How much can we fill it? How much can we put on it before we're spilling over, right? That's our capacity. And as we just thought in that little audit there, when our capacity is low, we snap, we lose control. That should say lose control. We withdraw, we try and justify. Oh, no, I see. Sorry. We snap, we control other people. We try and micromanage other people. We lash out, right? Withdraw, the silent treatment, the stopping talking, you leave, literally avoid the situations. And then we justify. I don't know if you've ever done that. I used to, oh, my behavior was so bad. I used to have where I'd get mad at my boyfriend and I'd be angry and I'd do the silent treatment and I'd stew in it. I'd really just stew in it. And I'd create all of these things. And of course, we're doing the thing where we're thinking about it repeatedly over and over, complaining, venting to everyone who would listen, feeding itself, right? And then coming up with excuses of why I was right. And we have to justify. But really, if we logically think about that, if we're trying to justify it, it's because we know it's not right. Right? If we need to make up excuses, we know we're wrong. Right? So, anyway, our capacity sets the limit of how much stress we can handle. And that, again, we think of that plate. The plate is only so much, it can only hold so much food, so much stress, right? And you can lot more and more on, and maybe the stress keeps coming, but it's going to just keep falling off, spilling over, and landing on all of our family, all of our friends, like everywhere else, right? That's the spillover. So this is why, in my opinion, it is so important to increase that capacity, increase the size of that plate. So this is where, again, a little bit about my story. If you can relate to this, if you're like me, you've definitely come a long way. You're not quite like this anymore. But if you're still like this, again, no judgment. We've all been there. We all kind of start there. This is just human nature. It seems to be generic. I don't know if society teaches us this, but generic coping mechanisms that create us to do this. It's really funny. But when stress really does make me angry, and then I lash out and I would throw those adult tantrums. Like I said, it was the silent treatment for 4 days. Like, come on, like I needed to grow up for sure. It is toddler behavior, complete emotional reaction. And if you ever follow any of my stuff, I talk about our subconscious as a little toddler, our little toddler brain living back there, just throwing the tantrums, trying to do things like all the emotion just spewing. So I would quite often, in my anger, with my low capacity, I say things I would regret. I, throw blame and I deflect on everything because nothing's ever my fault. I need to justify why I'm mad. And if I have to justify it, it's not my fault, which means it's someone else's fault, probably yours. And here's why. And then negativity really attracts more negativity. It's a negative cycle that feeds itself. The misery loves company, right? We've all heard this because it attracts itself. It wants to feed itself. So we actually subconsciously create more drama and negativity to reinforce it and feed itself and create more of that. So you actually create your own problems to be angry about. It's like that subconscious self-sabotage where we get pissed off. We don't ask the boyfriend to do something, but we think he should just know to do something, but there's no way he would know because we haven't told him. And then we get pissed off when he doesn't do it. We set up the situation because we know it's going to fail and we know we're going to be mad about it, but we do it anyway to give ourselves an excuse to be angry. I know you know what I'm talking about. And everyone around us is just obviously, or my boyfriend used to hide from me in the basement. And like, not an awesome relationship, right? So that's when we get over that limit, when the capacity ceiling is hit, the food is just falling off everywhere. We really have zero control over the emotions. At least that was my experience. So let's just talk about what is that stress. And it's a physical and mental response to the feeling of pressure. That's a lot of people, you can describe it in a lot of ways, but it's a feeling of pressure, demand, expectations, load, workload, right? Stress. And so the beauty of this, though, is because it's a feeling, it's just an emotion. It's just another negative emotion. Like anxiety. Anxiety is the feeling of fear and worry, uneasiness, an emotion. And again, if it's an emotion, we can control our emotions, which means we can get a handle on all of this. And awareness, I can't say it enough, is the first step to this change. So, really understanding that stress and emotion at its core, they're just feelings that we allow to get to us. So, this I love this. If we can control our emotions, we can control stress and anxiety because they are simply just emotions. But this is the key to remember is either we are in control of our emotions or our emotions are in control of us. And you think about it like a car. Somebody has to be driving the car. If so, let's say it's just you and your emotions in the car. You're either at the wheel driving or it's at the wheel driving. There's really no other option. Somebody has to be in control, and if it's not you, it's going to be those emotions. So get out that pen or pencil again and really think about in your life, what are the top three things that cause you stress? So for a lot of it, it is, the boyfriend not helping out around the house, maybe, or you have a coworker or employee or client slash customer that is just super high maintenance and you just know they're going to be calling you with something today. They're the problem child, right? Maybe it's your drive to work every day. You hate traffic, you get road rage. Like there's these repeating things in our lives that cause us stress. And maybe it's just work in general stresses you. A lot of people, money. Money stresses so many people out. Like, so really think when you think about all the stress in your life, what top three things stresses you the most, right? And then for those three, we'll leave that out actually. But top three things that cause you stress. Then what are your main triggers? And that's like, you're doing fairly well, life is going along, and something happens, and you're like, oh, and you get really pissed off. You get triggered, right? Something sets you off. What is that trigger? So a really common one that was for me is if I'm feeling a lot of pressure, I was feeling the stress, and my boyfriend would come up and be like, what do you need? That would trigger me. I need you to engage your brain and just help me out. That's what I need. I don't need to have to take time away. You interrupt me, and now I got to babysit you and tell you what to do. This was old me talking, right? But that would set me off. Just him coming into my space when I was busy, when I was stressed, when I was irritable, that would trigger me. Didn't matter what he asked. He was always asking if he could help, which is interesting, like being upset that someone's trying to help you, right? But think about these triggers. Is it a specific coworker? Maybe that person just triggers you. Maybe politics. That's pretty volatile right now. But think about what are those main triggers, those things that repeatedly always set you off regularly, right? And then lastly, for each one of those, how do you respond and or react? Do you respond or is it just an emotional reaction? And write that down. Again, no judgment. This is building awareness. This is like deep diving into our lives to really see where we're at and what's going on. Because a lot of times we tend to gloss over a lot of the negative things. And especially you've read the books, you've taken the courses, oh, positivity, gratitude. As I just said, they all attract each other. So I don't want to be in a negative state because I'll attract more negativity. So I want to be in a positive state and I can attract more positive things. Yes, but depending where you're at, what perspectives you hold, what beliefs you have, this can actually cause us to jump over, glaze over, avoid, ignore anything negative in our lives. Oh, I get triggered. I'm just going to leave the room and avoid that because I don't want to feel negatively. I just want to be in that positive space to attract more positivity. But that's not healthy. Avoidance solves nothing. Avoidance is always long term, it's a bad idea. Yes, if you're like about to like throw fists or whatever and you need to like go outside and calm down, fair enough. But if you plan to return and deal and address the situation, you're not truly avoiding it. It's the truly avoiding to never deal with because I don't want to because it's hard. Never ends well. So take a couple of minutes and really just deep dive into this. All right. Body awareness mapping. So now that we've kind of thought about all those things, the big ones anyway, that really get us, this is where when we get triggered and you really think about it, like let's say there's a person or a specific question or word that triggers you, when you hear it, automatically the body tenses first before our brain actually has the ability to kick in and like, what just happened, what did I just hear, the body immediately tenses. So the body reacts before our mind even has the option to. So that's the physical signs show up first. Now this is amazing because when we can feel, when we have that mind body connection and we can feel like, oh, I just tensed, what's happening, like we can pull our attention to the physical reaction, taking it away from the actual trigger, which allows us to actually engage our brain. And I call it the power pause and have a moment where we can, like, whoa, hold up, what's happening before the emotions kick in. So that's our little moment to take back control of the wheel if we weren't already holding it. This also really allows us a good opportunity to, first of all, again, strengthen that mind body connection, but understand how our stress, like how our emotions, where we stuff it, how everything works for us. Like a lot of people will feel a lot of stress in their stomachs, right? And then for those people, when stress gets really high, you can actually get ulcers, you can get IBS, like there's a lot of digestive issues. And then when you have the awareness of like, yeah, every time I get triggered, every time I feel pressure, every time I feel stress, I feel everything in my stomach and my digestion. And then you can be like, oh, of course I have like IBS, crappy digestive system. Like that's what's going on. It's because everything is focused there. Similar, if you like me, I feel it all in my neck and shoulders. When I get stressed, the pressure, it all sits up here. Well, if I start getting tension headaches or any sort of like, sometimes it'll be a bit of dizziness or whatever. And it's like, holy crap. Okay. Because my neck muscles are so tight, my shoulder muscles are so tight, it's causing tension headaches. So I can have that delayed reaction of stress or pressure buildup that will cause the headache. But I have the awareness of like, right, no, my shoulders are tight. I feel it here. It's just stress. There's nothing wrong with me. I have a tension headache. See how it plays into our like everyday physical well-being and lives, right? And then we can take the appropriate, reduce the stress, shake it out, maybe guided meditation, whatever it is. But all this awareness, it helps everything. So think about those things, if you flip back what we just did, the stressors, the triggers, when you think of those things, maybe take a specific trigger and you think of what that is and kind of visualize it. Where do you feel it in your body? And actually write this down. So this will be a good exercise also. Maybe later on today, just go through everything that stresses you out, all the triggers you have, and there'll probably be more that will come up later in life, throughout the week, throughout the day. And just note beside them, where do you feel it? This is huge. This is huge. So you can really do that and focus on that. And anytime in the future where you feel like, oh, I just got triggered and that awareness is kicking in, hey, wait a sec, where do I feel it? Right? And really build all that up. All right. So this, I I love this. I love deep breaths. They help me so much. So the regulation reset, we're going to really work on digging into the nervous system, calming that down. So think of the last thing that triggered you, or maybe you pick something off your list, a pretty good one, a specific situation, and think about that and rate the intensity. Like, again, the coworker, a lot of people, Trump, right? Oh, and they get triggered. Whatever, it could be a word like that. It could be a specific person. It could be a situation, whatever it might be. Maybe you hate your bathroom and every time, or your kitchen, and every time you walk in it, you just like, oh, whatever it might be. Rate the intensity of the emotion, 1 to 10. How irritated were you when that happened? Because the emotion can be intense, but there could be a lot of emotions in there. How irritated, how much of that was irritation and anger? And then where did you feel it? So, like I said, this is a good exercise to do for all of your triggers, all of those stress responses you have, to really just map it all out, write it all down, build that awareness. Now, thinking of that last one, write down the intensity and everything, feel it in your body. We're going to get grounded. So, feet on the floor if possible. I mean, if you're driving, do this later. And we're going to breathe in. I call this square breathing. So breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, out for 4 seconds, dropping the shoulders as you go, hold for 4 seconds. 16 whole seconds. That's all this takes. Everybody has time to do this at least once, if not multiple times. And it's good when you breathe out to really drop those shoulders. I like to give a little shimmy, a little shake. Fun fact, dogs, when you see them, if they're huffing and puffing and going, and then they shake afterwards, they are literally shaking out the stress. They're literally giving it a shake to get rid of it. So this is a physical thing, an animalistic physical thing that works. We can literally shake it out. It makes us feel better. So feel free to shake it out whenever you can. And what I like to do, what makes this really, really special, the square breathing, is you think about where did you feel that trigger in your body. So let's just say you felt it in your stomach. I'm going to visualize my shoulders, but your stomach. When you breathe in, visualize white cleansing light and let it just fill that space up, like all of it. hold it in there. It's circulating through all the cells. It's just cleansing everything. And then I breathe out through my mouth for the 4. And when I breathe out, I visualize black, stress, anxiety, all that gunk, all that stuff, that trigger, breathing it out into the trees. The trees are going to filter it into clean energy again, and dropping the shoulders and relaxing. I am literally expelling the stress. That's how I visualize. And then what I do is I actually deep breathe like that until the visualization of the black exhale is like a tinge of gray at best, but it's fairly clear. Like I've cleaned my system, I've expelled out all that I can. That's what really is the nail in the coffin, so to speak, the cherry on top. That's really going to help. So wherever you actually feel that stress, you can breathe in right into that body space, that body part, cleanse it out with that white light, and expel the gunk. So let's do that again. And you can do that a couple more times. I have had people that have told me they do that like 10 times. But I know every single time I do this, I instantly feel better. So this is a great one to just really have it in your pocket, memorize it. You could be in traffic. I love to close my eyes because I do the visualizing. But if you're in traffic, someone just cut you off, you get really bad road rage, whatever, breathe in the white light. It's okay. Shake it off and bring yourself down those couple notches, right? All right, this is a good one. This is, again, breathing into that nervous system. We're really digging down. We're basically telling the nervous system we are calm. There's nothing here. You can even do a bit of self-talk if you're a person where the self-talk really, really helps you. Like you're breathing in your like nervous system. Thank you for alerting me that there was like something happening, but we're not actually in danger. I thank you for a response, but we're going to calm down now. We do not need to be in fight or flight. We are safe. We are good. Everything is fine. Right? Okay. I don't know about you, but honestly, I feel better already. So the reaction rewrite, if you've ever seen any of my boundary videos, this is kind of similar. So the situation, we can go back and we can think of like 1 or 2 past triggering situations that we did not behave our best in. We snapped, we had a reaction instead of a response, whatever that is. So you have to think of that situation and then really think, what would regulated me do? Future self me, the strong, powerful, in control businesswoman, the plate is huge, I can handle anything. How would she respond? Or he, if you're a man, I don't want to exclude any men. How would you respond in that situation ideally? Who's that ideal person you want to be, and how would they respond? Because they're calm, they're cool, they're collected, they're completely regulated. And then you really think about that and you write that down. What would the calm leadership look like? Like when you think of like being that, again, person that people look up to, that calm, cool, collected, in control. What does that look like? Well, for me, literally, I repeat it a lot. She's calm, she's cool, she's collected. Doesn't matter what happens. She switches into problem solving mode right away. Like I was literally rear-ended on a rainy day. I had my dogs in the back. We're coming back from an acupuncture appointment. And old, unregulated me would have lost my mind. I would have, like, figuratively speaking, coming out swinging. What the heck? I would have been so mad, especially judging my past experiences with my cars and other stories. I would have been super triggered. But this happened last summer, I believe. And I took a breath. I was like, holy crap, that just happened. I took a couple breaths. I calmed myself and I was like, all right, what do we got to do? Call the police, call the insurance company. I jumped into action. I waited. I simply problem solved and responded how I wanted to. I stayed completely in control. It was amazing. And after 4 hours and driving home, because thank God I drive a truck, so it was just superficial damage. On our way home, I actually just turned on my music and I sang to my music, and I was in a great mood still after being rear-ended. And I was like, holy crap, what is happening? You know, I was like, oh my goodness. And that was one of the moments where I was like, this is like, I got to help other people do this, because this is amazing. How did I get to this exact moment? And capacity. I had the capacity to handle a traffic accident without it bothering me, right? So what does that calm leadership look like to you? The house is burning down, but it's okay. We're going to gather everyone and walk out the front door calmly and wait for the fire department. We're good, guys. We're good. What does it look like to you? And then what is the response you want to have? So this goes back to that original situation. What is that actual response that you want to have? Think about that, right? Which version builds the life and relationships you actually want? Which version of you? That reactive one or the calm, regulated leader one, right? Oh, I think I missed a slide somewhere in there. So what we're going to do is I want you to actually rewrite that situation. Oh, we're still on time. Okay. And actually write out, this is what we do for like boundary exercises a lot too. That response you wanted to have, actually write it out. You know, and maybe it's a reoccurring one. Maybe there's like, I love my mom, but my mom does trigger me. She tends to comment and comes across as nitpicking, and it's very irritating for me. But what would the regulated me do? The regulated me takes a breath, understands that she does not come at it from a place of negativity or meanness or critique. She comes at it from a making conversation, and she noticed this, and she happens to be a more negative person that points out and sees all the negative things. And then just to make conversation, she comments on it. Like, it really is an innocent comment that kind of comes across as a bit of a slap in the face. Love you, mom, if you're watching this. We have talked about this before. And so what's the response I want? Well, I love my mom. I don't want to be mad at her, especially when she does not mean to be mean about her comments. So I'm going to respond with a, okay, oh, thanks for pointing that out, or something casual, just like that. And I'm going to understand why and how she said that. And I'm going to let it go, and I'm going to change the subject. And, you know, casual conversation, great, let's talk about something else. And I'm going to just open up a conversation for something else, so we move away from that topic. And that's as simple as that is, right? And actually write it out, because the more we can write stuff out and reread it, and especially, guys, this is huge and this will help. If you have a recurring thing, like an employee that comes in, always says crappy stuff, always does something like this is their thing, and you're just like really tired of it, it's like a boundary where you write out, what is the response you want for that person? Maybe it's a neighbor, maybe you hate Girl Guides coming to your door and you always yell at them, whatever it might be. The response you want, and actually write it out like you're writing a play. I would say this, this, and this. I would shake it off. I would take a breath, whatever it might be. And then you reread it and you almost rehearse it. Because the more we can think about it literally like actors in a play. You read your lines, you memorize your lines, you rehearse your lines, and then when it comes to actually performing them, they're natural. They just come right out and everything looks great and it looks perfectly natural. So when we rehearse, we reread, we repeat, and we actually practice the response we want, like an actor in a play, when the time comes to deliver that response, we've got it. We know our lines and we do that, right? So this is really good. And when you get time, if you have a lot of different people in your life like that, maybe you deal with like really entitled, really complainy clients. How do you want to respond to people like that? Write it out, practice it. Coworker, write it out, practice it. Like whatever it is that triggers you, sets you off, that you want to change that behavior, that reaction, write it out and practice it. Right? All right. I know there's a lot. to do with this. So this is all kind of homework for you to do, but this is honestly, guys, this is like life homework. There's always new things that come up. Like even just today, I was walking the dogs and I actually had a thought of, okay, I have this event. Day one is today. Then I have an appointment later. I have to go downtown. And I'm like, okay, well, when I get home, then I can relax. And I'm like, oh, looking forward to after my appointment. And then like, well, now why can't I relax before then? No, who says I can't relax while I'm doing this, before I'm doing this, after I do this, before my appointment, while I'm waiting for why do I have to be tense? Who makes these different rules? Who decides all these reactions? Right? So it's about changing that perspective of like, why do I think I have to feel pressure, feel stress, i.e., not be relaxed because I have a meeting, a thing to do, tasks left undone? Why can't I do these things while being relaxed and enjoying them? Right? So this is a little aha I had this morning of I don't want to react to a task or a meeting with stress. My response to that is, oh, great, we're accomplishing one more thing, we're getting something else done. That's amazing. And then relax and be excited for it as opposed to feeling stress. I can relax and be excited, right? Where you sigh and you're just like, yes. Just these little things in life where we have a little aha, we have a little moment of like, oh, yeah, I did just get triggered. Write it down. You can do this exact same thing. What would regulated me do? Write your wanted response and then go forward from there, right? These are all tools to have in your belt. All right. Having said that, we have day one homework. Okay. So this is the big thing for tomorrow. The other things are amazing and they're great, and I want you to do them, but you don't have to do them immediately today for tomorrow. This is something I do want you to do for the rest of today. And if you're watching this on replay, you can just think back, if you can think back throughout your day, or maybe you can just go along with it. If you're going to power watch all the days in a row watching this on replay, that's okay. Just do this homework anyway. This is building the awareness. It is huge. Track how many times you feel triggered, stressed, or anxious today. So whether you have a voice note, you pull out, you have a tiny little piece of paper you carry around with you, and you just check like, oh, if the bare minimum you get is you just have a check mark and that's it, or a little sticker, or however you track, just do that. That is great. If you have time and you have somewhere to jot this down, what was that trigger? What triggered you? How long did it take you to recover? How long did it linger? How long did you stay irritated for? 20 minutes, 20 hours. You're still pissed off about it right now. How long did it take you to recover? And then again, what was that trigger? Was it the person? Was it what they said? Was it how they said it? What was going on when you got triggered? Like, really think, the boyfriend, for me, when the boyfriend would come in and I was just like, oh, and I'm freaking out, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm feeling the pressure. And he comes in, he's like, hey, can I help you? And I react with, of course you can effing, like, are you seeing me? I'm losing my mind. Of course you can help me. Terrible reaction. But what actually triggered me? Was it the boyfriend asking if he could help me? That wasn't the actual trigger. The actual trigger is he hasn't been helping me. I'm being silly enough to not ask for help. So I'm pissed. I'm actually pissed off at myself. And I'm actually feeling a little unloved, not being helped. I'm feeling like the Cinderella. That's what triggered me. So it's a bit of a cabal, but you want to start digging a little bit down into what actually triggered you. Well, he asked for help instead of just reading my mind. And he should just get up and help me because that would make me feel more loved. Right? And then we can work with that and break that down more. That gives us a lot of food for thought, right? So, all right, guys, I cannot wait for this. I can't wait for tomorrow to hear about the homework. Any questions you can pop in. write it in the chats. If you're watching the replay, write it in the comments. No matter, like, it's a couple days from now, whatever it is, write it in the comments. It's never too late. The more you can interact, the more you can ask questions, the more understanding and awareness you'll have, and the more shifts and the better shifts you can make, and the more you're going to get out of this, right? So, all right, guys, until tomorrow.